Hi, I'm Ruben Navarrete. I'm here with my friend Arnold Torres. Welcome back to Latino Paradox. Our question today, why don't you see more Latinos on television, on news shows, cable news shows, as commentators, analysts, and pundits? You see them as anchors and reporters oftentimes, but not in a role where they're giving their perspective on issues, even when the issues have to deal directly with Latinos. So, Arnold, what does it say about who we are? Here on the Latino Paradox, we always ask these three questions. Who are we? What do we want? And what are we doing wrong? So for the first one, in terms of who we are, what does it say about us as a community, this sort of brownout that influences what we watch on television?
Well, there isn't a brownout in the Spanish language media. Spanish language media, we certainly are covered. People watch it, but that population is in fact dwindling. The number of people who watch Spanish language media.
Yeah.
On the other side, we're a population that's ignored. We're a population that is constantly stereotyped. We're a population that is having a great disservice done to it, as well as across the board to the society at large, when you do not properly explain who we are and what our perspectives are, because then people operate with stereotypes, whether it be a conservative hard one or a very liberal one. And that's a very problematic reality that we've been dealing with now for 30, 40, 50 years in this country.
So I had to laugh when you said that there's no brownout on Spanish language television. Anyone who believes that has never seen a telenovela, where all the heroines, all the beautiful women have light skin, look like it came from Germany.
Oh, that's true.
Right? And all the dark-skinned people are the maids and servants. So clearly, there's somewhat of a brownout on Spanish language television as well. But to your point about what this is and what this says about who we are, we're the number one consumers of media, social media, radio and television, podcasts, webcasts, and the like, Twitter and Facebook. We are very well represented there. There used to be a digital divide in the Latino community because we didn't have home computers, but that's been solved now because we all have devices. We all have laptops, tablets. We have our phones. So we are the number one consumers of media. We are also, though, to your point, there is no such thing as a Latino perspective on an issue. So we are a population with very diverse perspectives. If you got two comadres together and said, okay, let's talk about bilingual education, you'd get two different perspectives. On immigration, two different perspectives. On tax policy, on defense, on police, two different perspectives. We know that. We know that from being Latinos, that there is no one Latino perspective. And that doesn't mean that one of your comadres is somehow better representative of Latinos than the next person. So you get into really dicey business when you try to put people on television to, quote, represent the Latino perspective, because that often fails. The second question that we often ask here, and I want to throw this directly to you again, is what does this dilemma say about what we want as Latinos when it comes to media diversification?
I think we want to be part of mainstream. We want to make sure that people are describing our experiences appropriately with the diversity that exists, that we're cognizant of that. And I think it's very, very important to have it be part of the overall discussion. We're such a large part of the population now. And we are constantly being told that we're not part of the mainstream. So we're not part of the mainstream. What are you doing actually describing us in such odd and ridiculous ways? So what we want is that if you're going to talk about us correctly, be inclusive, understand the diversity that exists within us. And that's not what we haven't been getting that in a very, very long time.
I agree with you. We want to see ourselves reflected in these stories. We want not to have to suffer through immigration discussions on these Sunday morning shows with no Latinos at the table. Or even more insulting, when a bunch of African-American and white commentators sit around a table and say, this is how I think the Latinos will vote in November. And it's all speculation. There's no Latinos at the table. I agree with you. On the other hand, man, we are a population that goes to see movies about black people and white people and Asian people. And we can demand all we want that Hollywood produce movies about Latinos. But the fact is, we have shown a willingness to consume media over the years that doesn't look like us or reflect us at all. I think it's probably a good thing. We are very comfortable in the mainstream. We're equally versed about Thomas Jefferson as we are Pancho Villa. We've been marinating in these juices as Americans for so long, intermarrying at 50%, by the way, as Latinos. So we are not people who shy away from mainstream content. Now the problem with that, and we'll get to this in the next segment in terms of what we're doing wrong. The problem with that is it does make it difficult to go back and demand that these media companies diversify their offerings when we've basically said that we'll eat whatever they put in front of us. So let me go to this last question now. Again, as we typically ask on the Paradox, what are we doing wrong? And I'll take this one to lead off, I think what we're doing wrong is we approach this issue of diversifying the airwaves the way we used to approach in the 60s, the idea of diversifying school boards or county commissions. We get a bunch of people outside a building, you protest with signs, and you demand that they hire more Latinos. That's not going to work at CNN or Fox or where I worked at the Dallas Morning News or wherever. It's not going to work because this is an arena where you've got to have the goods. And it's not the case that 54 million Latinos, just because they have mouths, should be on television. I know plenty of Latinos, I meet them every day, who really think they should be on television, but they got no business on TV because they can't communicate. And they shouldn't be on TV, they shouldn't be on the radio, they shouldn't be giving speeches for money, and they all think they can do that. But self-confidence is not a substitute for ability. So if I were them, I think one of the things we're doing wrong is we're not doing our homework. We're not studying these mediums, and we're not respecting these mediums so we can get in from the inside and do good television. If you do good television, you'll be on television.
Well, I don't think that that's the case, even if you do good television. I think what we're doing wrong is that we're not sitting down there and explaining to them the demographics. Latina should not just be on television because it's a Latino disproportionate issue. We should be on because we're such a large population of this nation. We comprise such a large part of it, and we have opinions, and we're such a big part of it. You're going to want to know what those opinions and perspectives are and what they're based on. And what we don't do is that we don't sit down and present this demographic reality to all of these people in these networks. And that maybe, I don't know if that would even make the change, because you're dealing with a cable network that still sees America in two colors, black and white. I understand that. It's not a resentment factor towards African Americans at all. It is really a concern for majority America, who basically wants to see only two sides of every coin.
Right. So we'll end with this. I think that the significance here, just like the old saying, teachers make the worst students, doctors make the worst patients. Journalists go around telling people what to do, but you can't tell them what to do. You can't bend these media companies to your will. The only way to infiltrate these media companies is to do what people like Ana Navarro do, which is do good television. If you do good television, you'll end up on television. I said before, this is not a case of them not understanding the demographics. They are stubborn, and they will not change their ways, despite the irony that they go around telling other people how to live their life. This has been the Latino Paradox. I'm Ruben Navarrete with my friend Arnold Torres. Until next time.